And welcome to Reckoning Brothers, everybody. Am I supposed to say Reckoning Bros?
Um, this is a really good question. I don't know. I usually say the full brothers. I don't know. This we should put this to bed right now. Which one do you like better?
I like Reckoning Brothers, but
I
Reckoning Bros for the, you know.
agreed. Glad we have that settled.
What are you drinking, Scott? What are you drinking?
Oh, I'm drinking a Irish whiskey called Writer's Tears, which has a pretentious name but a delicious taste.
So it's the Irish against the Scottish tonight
Ooh, yes,
because I
nice.
have my my very serviceable, affordable Scotch.
Yes.
I was out to dinner with one of our mutual friends last night. Several of our mutual friends actually, and asked him what he was drinking, and he said Crown. And I said, I haven't tasted Crown in a long time. And I always take a sip of his drink. And he gets he gets like fake mad about it. He's like, no. And I took a sip of it. Anyway, we got into a conversation about booze, and the well Scotch at this place is Dewar's, which is a good Scotch. And and that's when I told him that I bought several bottles recently of my very serviceable, affordable Scotch because the difference in price is about $10, $12 a bottle, and Dewar's is good Scotch, but it's not worth $10 more a bottle than this, right? Like,
That's what yeah, clinical definition of serviceable. I have two comments. One,
yeah.
prime rib is, in my opinion, the most overrated meat in the history of meats. I don't think it's very good. Two, Crown Royal, I drink for one occasion. I have a double Crown before I get on an airplane. No matter what time of the day it is, I'll have it at 9 a.m. If I have to fly, that's my go-to. Crown Royal double, get on the plane. Only time
So
I
it's like
drink
a
it.
super. So it's like some kind of. It's like a baseball superstition thing. Like you're using the same
Kind of.
bat that you hit that you went 4 for 4 on,
Yeah.
and then you use right.
Yeah,
You're
it's
like
become a
the
tradition,
plane
man. I
didn't
don't even
crash the
know.
last time I was on it, so I'm going to have a double crown this time. So I read the most extraordinary thing, and it's not the first time I've seen something like this. And you know who Representative, you know who Congressman Premier Jayapal is, right?
No. Well, I mean, I might, but it doesn't ring a bell. I might have heard a
She,
story about that person, but it doesn't ring
well,
a bell.
she's in the squad
Okay.
with AOC and Alana Presley and Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan
Yeah,
Omar,
yeah, yeah.
etc. Right?
The far
She's one of the
lefty.
squad members, right? The
Yeah.
super progressive. Um, so this is extraordinary. This is what she wrote on Twitter. Seattle has one of the worst housing crises in the country. I see it every time I'm home in my district. People working full-time jobs who can't afford rent, teachers, nurses, transit workers who can't live in the city where they serve, families on housing assistance on waiting lists that have been frozen for years. This is a policy failure, not an inevitability. We built this crisis by choosing developers over people. We can choose differently. Housing is a human right. We fight for it like one. And the extraordinary thing about that is Seattle has not elected a Republican mayor in over 5 decades. Seattle has been run by progressives for over 50 years, with leftist candidates winning the office since the 1960s, and the city council dominated by progressives. So, and I forget who said it was like it was just extraordinary. It was like this. You and the people that run Seattle and your ideology and your politics created the problem that you're complaining about. You fucking idiot.
Pretty sure it was Trump that was a reason for all that. Oh, no, wait, that's what they believe. Sorry, that's not the truth.
Well, no, I do believe that. And I actually replied to somebody a short time ago on the same thing, on sort of the same thing, kind of, which was so In Texas, there's some area where they're building these tiny homes, and the price tag on them is about $130,000. The HOA fee is, a modest $100 a month or something.
See, I kind of like these ideas. I think tiny homes is a clever solution to
I mean, these aren't like
the
super
problem.
tiny. They're not like the really tiny ones that you see in the ads, in the clickbait ads. These are 2-story homes. They're kind of narrow. They're not unlike sort of the row houses of New York back in the day, except they're not made out of.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
Right?
about. I think just
Right?
just quick side, a combination of that and 3D printed manufactured homes, I think will do wonders when it comes to lowering housing costs. If we take it seriously, and have
Absolutely,
regulations
absolutely.
that help it.
And
Anyways,
so a large account went, said, this is a tour of a brand new tiny homes neighborhood in Texas. Price tag, blah, 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 $130,000. Barely more than a 2-story shed, and they expect families to call it the American dream. This isn't progress. It's shrinkflation for your entire life. And I kind of, all right, whatever. These areas aren't being built for large families. Like these areas are being built for urban professionals that are living outside of cities who want to own a small piece of land and have a house instead of an apartment with an affordable mortgage payment.
it's a bachelor pad. This is a new, better
These are
version of a
bachelor pads,
bachelor pad. There's
exactly.
nothing wrong with
Or
that.
or young, or married couples with no kids, what have you, right?
Yeah.
And another large account swoops into the comments and goes, Trump's America will soon be selling you a toilet chair with a cardboard box for 130 grand. Has he made America great again yet, dumbass MAGAs? And the irony of that is that, okay, I didn't vote for Cheeto, blah, blah, blah. I'm not here to show for Donald Trump. The famous Cheeto Donald Trump was not responsible for doubling the average mortgage payment for a new house, which took place during the Biden years in less than 3 years. Data from the investment firm CBRE illustrates a stark reality. The average monthly payment on a new home soared to $3,322 in the third quarter of this year, being 2023, marking a staggering 100% increase since late 2020, when it hovered at just $1,746 before Joe Biden took office.
Can I
So my
just
reply, yeah,
can I be kind of boring and neutral here? The pricing, especially like home pricing, mortgage, all that stuff is so complex. I don't think it's really fair to blame a president one way or another just because
oh,
of
I don't
how
think it is
complex
either.
Yeah,
That was my
whether it's
hope.
Biden or
No,
Trump.
that was which was my point to him. The famous Cheeto responsible for doubling mortgage prices. It was not Donald Trump.
Yeah. It wouldn't have been
It
Biden
didn't,
if he was
and
president either.
it didn't happen during Donald Trump's presidency, right?
Got it.
The doubling of mortgage prices happened during somebody else's presidency. Now, am I saying that Joe Biden was responsible for it? No. Did it happen while he was president? Yes. It's kind of like, blaming presidents for, like it goes both ways, right? Depends on,
Yeah.
it depends on, actually doesn't depend on anything. Like Democrats will blame a Republican president for high gas prices. Republicans will blame a Democrat president for high gas prices. Democrats are doing that now because of Cheeto and the war in Iran. Republicans were doing it when Biden was president because, because of the war on oil and Green New Deal policies, et cetera, et cetera. So what was your backup plan today, Scott?
I've come up with a series of true or false questions that I wanted to ask you. Question number one, if you could just tell me true, false, and then why you say true or false, right? Stupid fiscal policy is actually very democratic. What I mean by that is people are ignorant of how economics works. Therefore, they elect people that promise free shit. Is that generally true or false? If so, why?
It's absolutely true.
You think that it's just that's another way? Is it another way of saying We get what we deserve. We elect what we deserve because we as a populace are so ignorant and so emotionally driven.
Seattle is going to get what they deserve for electing that stupid communist mayor they got.
Mm-hmm.
New York's going to get what they deserve for electing Zoran Mamdani. I don't like it. Right? Somebody with a big account put up. It's about the billionaire. This whole conversation about billionaires, and the class warfare that's going on with that. I forget exactly how he put it, but it was something like, if I'm hoarding all the food in a community of 50 people, that's what billionaires are doing. He likened billionaires to like the guy who's hoarding all the food in this small, imaginary community that he dreamed up. And of course, the guy that produced that food is under no moral obligation to share it with everybody else. Like he might want to, and that might be a good thing, but he's not under any moral obligation. He produced the food. The food belongs to him. And yes, he's going to get taxed by the government so that people who can't afford food are going to be able to get free food, which this person knows is absolutely true, right? Like this country spends $2 trillion a year on food programs, free medical care with Medicaid. The list goes on and on and on and on. The social programs and anti-poverty programs that this country has, job training programs, subsidized housing, free housing, etc. Now, yeah, it's true you have to go sign up for it, because the counter argument that people on the left make is, well, but we have all these homeless people, blah, 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 blah. Well, yeah, if you want to live on the street and nobody forces you to get off the street, then you're going to have people living on the street.
Well, then also, if you have programs that enable living on the street to happen easier, it's going to happen.
Correct. If you have city council members and judges that literally maintain that you're going to be violating somebody's civil rights if you remove them from the streets, which is absurd. It's like, that's like absolute madness. Like we live, let me quote the left, we live in a society. Like, no, you don't have a right to live on the street, defecate, urinate, and live in your open air drug market in your little tents and your little homeless shelters, in your little homeless encampments. Of course you don't have a right to do that, right?
Let me ask you something. I was having this discussion with my wife the other day. I think that Los Angeles can be made really nice and really good with small policy changes and people actually enacting those policy changes. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
I mean, it can be a tremendous place with just political will. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think Spencer Pratt is articulating that quite well, as a matter of fact.
He's a very impressive figure. Who would have known that a reality star from the early 2000s would lose his house in a fire and then become a really compelling mayoral candidate for Los Angeles? Yeah, I didn't see that coming. That was on no one's fucking bingo card.
That was on nobody's bingo card. Really, he's just...
You want to do him?
I'm sorry?
Did you say you want to do him?
No.
Do you kind of want to do him a little bit, though? Just be honest.
He's too old for me. He's too old for me.
Now, he's an impressive dude. I love the clips I saw of the debate.
Give me some supermodel dude in his 20s.
Yeah, the
if I have to, if I have to like hook up with somebody.
Mm-hmm. Understood.
I just said that on the podcast. I'm straight.
I could edit that out, but I'm not going to.
No, that's fine.
Let me.
So the answer to your first question is,
Yeah.
Was it yes? It's a policy choice. and you're going to have to live with. It's a policy choice. You're going to live. You're going to have to live with the consequences.
But fiscal policy, it just kind of fiscal policy, democracy, hand in hand. People don't know what the hell they're talking about. They elect people promising free shit, so we waste money. Is that the economy in a nutshell for the U.S.?
It's certainly the economy in our largest cities, because they all run huge deficits.
But the federal government runs huge deficits, and
the federal government runs huge deficits.
Easing, blah blah blah.
And so what you end up with is the age-old economic truths always come into play. Whatever you tax, work, savings, investment, families, housing, property, private property, investment, small businesses, whatever you tax, you get less of, and whatever you subsidize, homelessness, drug addiction, you're going to get more of. Whatever you tax, you get less of. Whatever you subsidize, you get more of.
People respond to incentives, right?
Since the dawn of time.
Just one more thing before we move off of this. I'm pretty sure you're the first one to bring this to my attention decades ago. If you tax all the billionaires and you take all their wealth, that's only enough to really run the government for like a couple years. Really?
Oh, it's not even a couple years.
It's not even a couple years. Yeah.
No, it's more like, I think it's like 3 months.
Okay, so it's no time at all, really.
Well,
People just don't understand economics, wealth, where money goes, where the numbers are. The whole billionaires take all their money just doesn't work, no matter.
So it's all sloganeering, it's all taglines. Eat the rich, billionaires should exist, etc. Or let the billionaires leave New York, well, go, with Ma'am Donnie, Mayor Ma'am Donnie's acolytes are like, well, just let them leave. Have fun paying for half of all the government you want, because whether it's in federal income taxes or whether it's taxes paid by the top 1% in Los Angeles or New York, what you're going to find if you do your own research is that the top 1% in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, etc., in cities where progressive mayors and city councils insist that you need to tax the top 1% more, they're already paying roughly half of all the taxes, right? So once you've eaten the rich and once you've driven them out, once you've eliminated their existence, have fun paying for all the stuff, all the free stuff you want, all the safety net programs you want, all the public works programs that you want, all the way down. Have fun paying for all of it, because the money's not going to be there. It's going to be gone. And this reminds me about Bernie Sanders and his years-long obsession with millionaires. And he used to tweet about it, quite frequently, or Facebook about it, whatever. He'd say, millionaires shouldn't exist. Millionaires need to pay their fair share. Their fair share. Millionaires need to pay more in taxes, etc. And for like well over 2 decades now, the top 1% have shouldered roughly somewhere between 42 and 50% of the tax burden. And as soon as Bernie became a millionaire, he had to stop saying millionaires shouldn't exist. Millionaires need to pay their fair share. Because as soon as the motherfucker became a millionaire with 3 homes, he had to switch to billionaires shouldn't exist. Billionaires need to pay their fair share. Oligarchists need to pay their fair share.
I want to coin.
It was all fucking game.
I want to coin the term rhetoric inflation. That's what that is. Rhetoric inflation.
Yeah. Have fun paying for all the free stuff that you want without the people that are shouldering a huge portion of what pays for it in the first place. And the other thing is, they constantly use the word hoarding wealth, which is so that you have you have the um, you have the intellectual capacity of a 5-year-old watching Scrooge McDuck in economics. If you're talking about billionaires hoard all the wealth. Billionaires have their money in banks, which loan it out to people to buy cars and homes. Billionaires have their money in public service union pension funds. Billionaires have their money in a lot of different places. It's also, their net worth is based on like things that they own, like Elon Musk's worth. Elon Musk doesn't have whatever it is, $400 billion in a checking account or $400 billion in underneath a mattress or in a vault someplace. That's his combined wealth of all the businesses that he owns, along with money that he puts in different places, whether it's the stock market, whether it's in investment funds that loan it out to small businesses, whether it's in banks that are loaning it to families to buy a house.
It's all over the place. I think it's also important to say net worth is an estimate. That should tell you something. Net worth is an estimate of what someone's holdings might kind of be worth. If you understand what an estimate means, it means it's not exact because people don't know because the money's not in the fucking bank account. So you should know that that should scream proof of what you're saying, just a definition of what net worth really is when you look into it.
Very smart. Next question.
The left won the culture wars in the 60s and remains undefeated. True or false, and why?
True, but the trend is on a slight change. It's on a slight correction course.
What's that wave looked like from the 60s, right? Has it been like they won and they've kind of gone up and up and up and up with a few dips, and now they're kind of starting to dip down?
So a good example of this would be trans activism. Okay. Now, I love and respect all my gay and trans friends, family members, colleagues, coworkers, neighbors. And none of them, and I've said this before on here, none of them believe that a 14 or 15-year-old girl should be able to get a double mastectomy because she believes herself to have been born in the wrong body. None of them believe that biological men and boys should be participating in women and girls sports. None of them believe that, yes, they do believe, and yes, they actually they actually suffer from and did suffer from gender dysphoria. And so they transitioned, and they did it when they were adults, and they do not believe that they do not believe that children should be making life altering decisions on their own.
Something perfectly sensible that every human being would have believed wholeheartedly till about 2018.
Correct. I mean, I think the trans activists have done more to harm the LGBTQ community than any other group.
Agreed.
Like, they're the people that say they're for, they're the ones that proclaim that they are for trans rights, human rights, etc. But they've severely damaged, their own brand, right? So it took decades and decades for the gay community, the gay and trans community, to be exonerated from the erroneous, egregiously false narrative that they were into pedophilia, and that those narratives of the gay community and the trans community being a threat to children, that was a real thing, and it existed for decades, and they were smeared with that. Once once all the data came out that a gay man is literally less, statistically less likely to sexually abuse a child than a straight married man, right?
Mm.
So those myths were shot down, and it took a long time to do it. And then somewhere in the last,
I want to
yeah,
say one of the things that people don't get about the success of the gay rights movements and civil rights and all of that is it relied on people realizing that gay people were just like you. Black people were just like you. You had a bunch of similarities. They were your friends. They were your neighbors. And then gay people were in the closet that you worked with. The gay movement became more popular. And then you realized, hey, that Clark that I work with was gay. I never knew, and then you talk to him and you understand this happens all over the country, little by little, over a few years. And then you have this wild success. The gay rights movement is a huge success. Civil
it's a
rights
huge
movement is a
success.
huge success because people realize I have so much in common with these people. I don't need to hate and fear them. In my mind, that's what led to the
Yeah,
success.
and especially if you're sort of like ideologically libertarian or
Mm.
libertarian conservative, etc. Like if you're a person that's like live and let live, right? That really is that means a lot to somebody like like I have that mindset, and I'm like that means a lot to me. Live and let live. You're not bothering anybody. You're not hurting anybody. You're living your life. You're being happy. And the most destructive entity, the most destructive force in that has caused the damage um, is the trans activist community, and their demand that they be allowed to have drag queen story hour, that they be allowed to have family friendly drag shows, that they be allowed to you know march mostly naked in pride parades, next to a school bus stop, that they
Which
be
is
allowed.
to my point, that's the opposite of what the civil rights and gay rights movements did that led to success. It's saying we're different than you. We have different values and you better accept it, motherfucker. That's not going to lead to success. The
Correct.
real success came from, hey, we're just like you. We just want to live our lives. Hey man, we're not hurting. We can be your friends. We can be your neighbors. Come over, watch a movie and chill with us. Let's play some pool. That's what leads to success. It's the opposite. It will fail. And yes, it's hurting the whole modern gay rights movement and LGBT movement. But anyway,
It's hurting the modern LGBTQ movement. It's hurting it truly is. The worst thing that they're doing, the awful thing that they're doing, is how they attack detransitioners.
oh yeah, that's
Like,
unforgivably bad.
oh my God, they are merciless.
It's because you're an apostate. You're an apostate against my religion. It's all so fucking religious, so transparently religious. It's a transparent secular religion. You're getting a spiritual meaning through your fucking ridiculous extremist beliefs. How do you not see that? You're in a cult. Grow the fuck up. Can we do one more question and then I'll
Please,
save the rest for last?
God, we're 37 minutes in already. Holy
See,
shit!
yeah, there we go. All right, last question. As you age, it makes sense to have less of a strong opinion on most things.
As you age,
So when you're younger, you have real strong opinions, right?
yeah,
Does it make sense that when you get older, these strong opinions soften and they're not so sharp as you
that's a
age?
really difficult question to answer, Scott. I think that depends on what generation you belong to.
Mm.
So for a person like me, my generation, like I did not have what would be considered really strong opinions during the 1980s and 90s, right? That America was generally a force for good in the world, that that most Americans, that most people are good people, that the American people are a good people, a kind people, a generous people, that the United States is a generous country, that people should be able to live their lives um, like a, without an overbearing federal government. People should be able to live their lives without being attacked by online mobs or, you know, academia or bureaucrats, etc. So um, people got, I think in general, people got along better, were less ideological, um, that the country was more cohesive in a general belief that we're all Americans. We're a generous country. We are more often than not, we're not perfect, but we're more often than not a force for good in the world, and that we were proud of our history, which was, you know, began with a revolution that fought off tyranny, um, a a monarchy that occupied uh, our colonies, and that our core belief was life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Things have become so polarized now that I find myself becoming um, more outspoken, at least within my circle of people, about issues that I feel very strongly about.
Would you say it was easier then in the 80s and 90s to have a softer opinion because everybody just kind of went with the flow as a whole? Was it Francis Fukuyama? Is that the guy who the end of history guy?
Yes, I
No
think it was. Yeah.
countries, two countries that have McDonald's can't go to war. Blah blah blah. You were in that kind of world, but then things just changed, and now, like you said, polarization is a big thing. The internet, social media, people seem to be hating each other. So you're like, I just, hey, I got to make my voice heard. I the
Yeah.
You just can't
Things are
afford to
so
be so laissez-faire.
yeah, yeah, things are so polarized now that I have become uh, significantly more concrete in my core beliefs.
Hmm.
So the answer to your question is what? No.
I guess it'd be no for you, but I'm assuming if you were someone that came of age in like the 60s and 70s, and then you in the 80s and 90s, you probably would make sense to have more of a soft belief because the world would have been the U.S. at least would have been a softer
Well,
place where you'd
I
be.
do remember the '60s and '70s because I'm that old, and I think the ironic thing about that is, and I've mentioned it here before, is that we really had a tumultuous time in this country in the '60s and the early '70s. We were in a war that that took 58,000 American lives, right? So we had the peace movement that was protesting against that war. We had the civil rights movement where you had a very violent faction of racist people in the South, particularly in the South, who were opposed to integration and civil rights and voting rights for Black Americans. And that was also a very polarizing time. That um, and when you compare that to today, so like I get it. You're opposed to the war in Iran. You don't like Donald Trump. You know, you're for civil rights for everybody, and who isn't, right?
Yeah.
Like the tiny, really.
It depends. If you're one of the 15 million Jews on the planet, pretty much everybody now is against their civil rights. But everybody else, yeah, would agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like I am old enough to remember when my neighbors and my friends and the sons of my parents' friends and people that went to school with my brother and sister were coming home in body bags every month. We were losing thousands, hundreds, and thousands of Americans every month in Vietnam. And I had this conversation with a family member, and it was shortly after the election of Donald Trump this past term. And he was very upset. He was literally in tears, talking about moving to another country, that he wasn't going to be able to stomach living in a country run by Donald Trump. And, he was that affected by the election. And strangely enough, and at that moment in time, oblivious to the fact that his own father was in Vietnam and was irreversibly damaged by Vietnam. His father came home injured, not war injured, but
psychologically injured.
Well, yeah, psychologically injured. I think he had like an appendicitis or something. Came home very injured, very, very affected, deeply wounded by that war. Was a heroin addict after the war, became one over there, stayed one over here, overcame that, but basically spent the rest of his life consumed by addiction and PTSD from that war. And so he was telling me that he wanted to, move to another country, and he was also telling me that he was going to cut off other family members and friends that he thought may have voted for Donald Trump. And you've heard me talk about this before, and I had to explain to him that I was surrounded by family and friends and community and neighbors who were watching people come home in body bags, people that they knew, people that they loved, coming home in body bags from Lyndon Johnson's war. And they never cut off their friends and family because they voted for Lyndon Johnson. And I said, look, people aren't coming home in body bags by the thousands every month. You think it's bad that Donald Trump is going to be president again, and you think it's awful and terrible, you're going to move to another country. Let me remind you what it was like to live in the United States in 1966. Because if you were any American in 1966, you were not unaffected by the Vietnam War. You were personally affected by it. Everybody was, because everybody knew had a family member, had a neighbor, had a best friend, had an uncle, had a brother, had a classmate come home from that war in a body bag.
This person is being manipulated by most likely social media. It's technology, baby. That's that fucking powerful.
Yeah.
All right, man. This is fun. Kind of depressing.
This was fun.
That's what we do.
It was very
fun, kind of depressing.
Scott, it was very freewheeling.
I know, man. It was, man.
I just want to add something. Like, we don't rehearse any of this. We don't know what we're going to talk about. I don't know what you were going to talk about today. You didn't have any idea what my reactions were going to be. We don't send each other scripts, or this is just us having a drink, sitting around talking.
Sometimes 2 drinks. All right,
Sometimes
man.
3.